The unlikely savior. The prison wasn't on any official star chart. The Imperium didn't acknowledge places like this, black sites tucked away in forgotten asteroid belts where problematic beings disappeared forever. Thorne hadn't meant to find it, he was just following signal chatter about salvageable warp cores. His small ship, the Wayfarer, drifted silently through the debris field surrounding the asteroid prison. At 32, Thorne had spent nearly half his life as a scavenger, picking through the galaxy's forgotten corners for valuable tech. His weathered face reflected in the viewport, stubble catching the faint light of distant stars. A scar traced his jawline, a souvenir from a salvage job gone wrong, and his dark eyes constantly scanned for danger. "This isn't right," he muttered, frowning at the readout. "Power signatures too strong for an abandoned outpost." The ship's AI responded in its perpetually anxious tone. "Perhaps we should reconsider this salvage operation, Captain. My threat assessment suggests." "Nobody asked you, Nova," Thorne interrupted, powering down non-essential systems. "Besides, we need those parts. The atmospheric regulator won't fix itself." Nova made a sound suspiciously like a digital sigh. "I've prepared the emergency protocols, as usual." Thorne grinned. "That's the spirit." He docked at an abandoned maintenance port, the magnetic clamps engaging with a dull thunk against the asteroid's surface. His environment suit hissed as it sealed, the helmet's display lighting up with atmospheric readings and navigation markers. "I'll be quick," he told Nova. "Keep the engines warm." The facility corridors were eerily silent, emergency lighting casting blue shadows across deteriorating metal walls. Thorne moved with practiced quiet, his scanner sweeping for valuable tech and potential threats. "Hello, beautiful," he whispered, approaching what appeared to be an auxiliary power station. The components alone would fetch enough credits to keep him flying for months. As he worked to detach the power couplings, a distant sound caught his attention, not mechanical, but organic. A voice. Thorne froze. According to his intel, this place was abandoned, stripped of personnel years ago when the Imperium relocated its operations. He should be alone. Against better judgment, he followed the sound deeper into the facility. The corridors narrowed, the lighting grew dimmer, and the air felt heavier. Finally, he reached a section that looked nothing like the rest, not utilitarian maintenance tunnels but something far more sinister. Cell blocks. Most were empty, their maglocks disabled and doors hanging open. But at the far end, a single cell hummed with active power. The sound came from within, not words but a melody, haunting and alien. "Who's there?" Thorne called, hand hovering over his blaster. The singing stopped. Silence stretched for several heartbeats. "Are you real?" The voice was hoarse, as if rarely used, but distinctly feminine. Thorne approached cautiously, peering through the small viewport in the door. Within the dimly lit cell sat a woman, or something like a woman, with skin pale as starlight and intricate markings spiraling down her arms. Her eyes when she raised them to meet his were violet, wide with disbelief. Most striking were her ears, elongated and pointed, adorned with faded markings that might once have been brilliant. She was Lyrian. Thorne had seen her kind before, but rarely since the Imperium had conquered their homeworld 5 years ago. "Well," he said, lowering his blaster slightly, "you're definitely not salvage." Her expression didn't change. "Are you Imperium?" Thorne snorted. "Do I look like Imperium to you? Then why are you here?" She moved with surprising grace for someone clearly imprisoned for a long time, rising to her feet in one fluid motion. "Salvage run. Looking for tech, not." He gestured vaguely, "Prisoners." She approached the door, studying him through the viewport. "I am Nyx, former commander of the Lyrian Third Fleet." Her voice carried authority despite her circumstances. "If you free me, I can offer you far more than whatever scraps you hope to find here." Thorne hesitated. Freeing an Imperium prisoner, especially a high-ranking enemy combatant, would put him on their most wanted list. But leaving her seemed equally unconscionable. "How long have you been here?" he asked. "I stopped counting after 1,000 days. Nearly 3 years. The Lyrian surrender had been almost 5 years ago. She'd been imprisoned even before her people's formal defeat." Thorn sighed, already regretting his decision as he examined the cell's security system. "Stand back." He bypassed the primary lock with a decryption tool, but the mag seals required a manual override. As he worked, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. "That's not good," he muttered, working faster. "The facility has automated security protocols," Nix explained urgently. "If you triggered an alarm, drones will be activated." "Great. Just great." With a final twist of wires, the mag seals disengaged, and the cell doors slid open with a reluctant hiss. Nix stepped out, her movements cautious as if she couldn't quite believe her freedom. She was taller than Thorn had realized, her frame lean but powerful. Despite years of imprisonment, she carried herself with unmistakable dignity. "We need to move," Thorn said, already heading back the way he'd come. "My ship's at the maintenance dock." "Wait." Nix gripped his arm with surprising strength. "There's something I need first." Before he could protest, she was moving down the corridor toward what appeared to be a secure storage area. Security drones would be on them within minutes, but Nix worked with focused determination, breaking into a small locker and retrieving a slender metallic object. "A bracelet?" Thorn asked incredulously. "We're risking our lives for jewelry." Nix slipped the ornate band onto her wrist. "This is a Kyber link, containing the tactical data and fleet codes of the Lyrian resistance." Her eyes met his. "Without it, my people have no chance." The first security drone rounded the corner as they sprinted back toward the docks. It was a standard Imperium model, spherical, hovering, and armed with stun weapons designed to incapacitate without killing. Valuable prisoners, after all. Thorn fired twice, hitting the drone's propulsion system. It spiraled into a wall, sparking. "More will come," he warned as they ran. They reached a junction where the corridor split 3 ways. Nix immediately pointed left. "This way." "How do you know?" "I memorized the facility layout. They brought me through here when I arrived." Impressive retention after 3 years of imprisonment. Thorn followed her lead, and true to her word, they reached the maintenance dock faster than his original route would have allowed. As they approached the Wayfarer, 3 more drones appeared, firing stun pulses that crackled against the metal walls around them. Thorn ducked behind a storage container, returning fire. "Can you make it to the ship?" he called to Nix, who had taken cover nearby. Instead of answering, she grabbed a length of pipe from the floor and hurled it with astonishing accuracy. It sliced through the air, striking the lead drone's optical sensor. As the drone spun in confusion, she dashed forward, leaping onto it and redirecting its weapons toward the other 2. In seconds, all 3 drones were disabled. Thorn stared. "That was unexpected." "I told you," she said simply. "I was a commander." The Wayfarer's hatch opened at Thorn's approach. "Nova, we're leaving. And we have a guest." "A guest?" The AI sounded alarmed. "Captain, protocol states. Override protocols. Emergency departure." Nix entered the ship, her eyes taking in every detail with tactical precision. As the hatch sealed behind them, Thorn slid into the pilot's seat and fired up the engines. "You might want to hold on to something," he advised as the ship detached from the dock. "This could get rough." The asteroid prison's automated defense systems had activated, surface cannons tracking their departure. Thorn navigated through the debris field with practiced skill, the ship's hull occasionally scraping against rock as they evaded weapons fire. "Your ship is quite maneuverable," Nix observed, maintaining perfect balance despite the erratic flight pattern. "The Wayfarer may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts." Thorn grinned as they cleared the debris field, the prison growing smaller behind them. Where exactly am I taking you? Nyx gazed out at the stars, her expression unreadable. I need to find what remains of my people. She turned to him, violet eyes intense. You've given me back my freedom. Now I intend to give it back to the Lyrians. Thorn had a feeling his simple salvage run had just become something far more complicated. As they jumped to lightspeed, leaving the prison behind, he wondered what exactly he had set in motion by freeing this warrior from her cell. Nova, he called to the AI, plot a course for the Perseus Drift. We need somewhere to lay low while we figure out our next move. As the stars streaked past the viewport, Nyx placed a hand on his shoulder. Thank you, she said quietly. I won't forget this. Something in her voice told Thorn that when Nyx remembered something, the entire galaxy would eventually hear about it. Rising from ashes. The Perseus Drift was an interstellar backwater, a collection of forgotten outposts and lawless trading hubs where the Imperium's reach was thin. Perfect for fugitives. The Wayfarer docked at Helios Station, a rusting labyrinth built into a hollowed-out asteroid. Here, questions weren't asked as long as docking fees were paid. 2 weeks had passed since Thorn had freed Nyx from her prison. In that time, the Lyrian woman had transformed. The pallor of captivity was fading from her skin, replaced by a subtle luminescence natural to her species. She moved with increasing confidence, her body remembering its strength through rigorous daily combat drills performed in the limited space of Thorn's cargo hold. Your form is improving, Thorn remarked, leaning against the doorframe as he watched her execute a series of fluid movements with a makeshift staff. He'd given up trying to match her in sparring sessions after the 3rd time she'd pinned him to the floor with embarrassing ease. Nyx completed her sequence before responding. My muscles remember what my mind tried to forget. She lowered the staff, fixing him with those unsettling violet eyes. The latest intelligence from your contacts, is it reliable? Thorn pushed away from the doorframe and crossed to the small galley area. Zara's information is always good. Expensive, but good. He poured 2 cups of a steaming beverage that smelled vaguely of cinnamon. The Imperiums deployed their 8th Division to the Lyrian outposts in the Cygnus sector. They're systematically eliminating resistance cells. Nyx accepted the cup he offered, her fingers brushing his briefly. Such casual contact would have been unthinkable weeks ago, when she had flinched at any approach. Now, something was changing between them, something neither acknowledged directly. Then we must move quickly, she said, taking a sip. If Zara's information is accurate, the resistance base on Meridian could be next. You're still planning to go, Thorn said. It wasn't a question. I must. Nyx set down her cup. My people need to know what I carry. She touched the Kyber-link bracelet on her wrist. These tactical codes could reunite our scattered forces. Thorn ran a hand through his disheveled hair. It's suicide. The moment you broadcast any Lyrian signal, the Imperium will trace it. Which is why I need a better transmitter. Her expression softened slightly. And perhaps a pilot I can trust. Their eyes met, and Thorn felt that now familiar tightness in his chest. He'd been fighting it since the day they'd escaped, this growing attachment to the alien warrior who had turned his simple life upside down. I'm just a scavenger, he said quietly. You stopped being just anything the moment you opened my cell door. Nyx stepped closer. Why did you free me, Thorn? The truth. He looked away. Maybe I was tired of surviving without a purpose. Before she could respond, Nova's voice interrupted from the ship's speakers. Captain, there's a situation at the main concourse. A patrol has arrived, Imperium vessels. Thorn swore under his breath. They've traced us here. Unlikely, Nyx said, already moving to gather her few belongings. Standard patrol pattern. But they'll scan all docked vessels. Time to disappear then. Thorn hurried to the cockpit, Nyx close behind. The viewport showed the station's central docking ring where 3 sleek Imperium cruisers had just arrived. We can't outrun those if they spot us leaving. Nick studied the layout of the station on the navigation display. We don't need to leave. We need to hide. She pointed to a maintenance passage. Can you maneuver through there? It's barely wider than the ship. But it leads to the station's underside, the shadow zone where scans are weakest. Thorne grinned. I like how you think. He powered up the Wayfarer's systems to minimal levels and detached from their berth, drifting silently toward the narrow passage. The ship scraped against metal walls as they squeezed through, each sound magnified in the tense silence. As they emerged on the station's dark side, Thorne cut all non-essential power. They floated in the shadow, watching through the viewport as Imperium soldiers conducted their inspection of the main docking areas. They're methodical, Nix observed. We have perhaps an hour before they realize some ships have relocated. Then we need a diversion. Thorne accessed the ship's communication system. I know someone who owes me a favor. Within 20 minutes, an explosion rocked the far side of the station, nothing lethal, just a warehouse containing confiscated contraband suddenly experiencing catastrophic decompression. As predicted, the Imperium forces rushed to investigate, providing the perfect opportunity for the Wayfarer to slip away unnoticed. Once they were safely in open space, Thorne set course for Meridian, the rumored location of the largest remaining Lyrian resistance cell. Your friend sacrificed much to create that diversion, Nick said, studying Thorne's profile in the cockpit's dim light. Thorne chuckled. Jasper? Nah. He's been looking for an excuse to blow up that warehouse for months. The station commander confiscated his favorite smuggling vessel. Still, you have allies. That's rare in times like these. Not allies. Just people who owe me, or who I owe. He glanced at her. What about you? Will they welcome you back after all this time? Your resistance leaders. Nix's expression grew distant. If any of my command chain survives, they will recognize my authority through the Kyber link. If not. She straightened her shoulders. Then I will earn their trust anew. 3 days later, they approached Meridian, a small, unremarkable moon orbiting a gas giant. Its surface was mostly barren, save for sprawling fungal forests that provided natural camouflage from orbital scans. As they descended toward the coordinates Nix believed would harbor her people, the ship's sensors detected multiple weapons locks. We're being targeted, Nova announced nervously. Broadcast the recognition codes, Nix instructed, her voice tense with anticipation. The response was immediate, a squadron of small fighters rising from the fungal canopy, surrounding them in tight formation. An incoming transmission crackled through the speakers. Unknown vessel, you carry Lyrian command codes that have been inactive for 3 cycles. Identify immediately. Nix leaned toward the communication panel. This is Commander Nix Vala of the 3rd Fleet. I returned from Imperium captivity with critical tactical data. Silence stretched for several moments before the response came, by the stars. Commander. The voice had changed, filled with disbelief and something like hope. The fighters escorted them to a landing site hidden beneath massive fungi. As the Wayfarer's hatch opened, Thorne saw tears in Nix's eyes, the first show of emotion he'd witnessed beyond determination and controlled anger. The resistance base was impressive, a network of underground chambers and repurposed mining equipment. Dozens of Lyrians emerged to witness Nix's return, many dropping to one knee in a gesture of deep respect. An older Lyrian male stepped forward, his face marked with battle scars. Commander Vala. We thought you dead when your ship was destroyed at the Battle of Kandar. Not dead, Tarek. Captured. Nix clasped his arm in greeting. The Imperium wanted Lyrian fleet strategies. They thought 3 years would break me. And this human? Tarek asked, eyeing Thorne suspiciously. He freed me. Without him, I would still be imprisoned. The explanation seemed sufficient. Thorne found himself welcomed, if cautiously, into the heart of the Lyrian resistance. Over the following days, he watched in fascination as Nyx reclaimed her role with natural authority. The tactical data from her kyberlink proved invaluable, revealing the locations of scattered Lyrian ships and resistance cells throughout the sector. "We've been fighting as individuals," she explained during a strategy session. "That ends now. The Imperium expects us to hide, to survive. They don't expect us to unite." With each passing day, Nyx grew stronger, more commanding, and Thorn found himself increasingly drawn to her. He told himself he would leave soon, return to his simple life of salvage and survival. Yet somehow, he kept finding reasons to stay. One evening, he found Nyx alone on an observation platform overlooking the fungal forest, illuminated by the gas giant's glow overhead. "Your people love you," he said, joining her at the railing. "They love what I represent. Hope." She turned to face him. "Why are you still here, Thorn? Your ship is repaired. You've been paid generously for your assistance." He couldn't meet her gaze. "Maybe I want to see how the story ends." "Or perhaps," she said, stepping closer, "you've found something worth fighting for." Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. They rushed to the command center where tactical displays showed multiple Imperium warships entering the system. "They found us," Tarek announced grimly. "Evacuation protocols initiated." Nyx studied the display, her expression hardening. "No. We don't run." She activated the communication system. "This is Commander Vala to all Lyrian vessels. The time has come to implement Protocol 7. Thorn recognized the code from her strategic discussions, a daring counterattack plan that required perfect coordination. "You can't be serious," he protested. "Your forces are outnumbered 3-1. Numbers aren't everything." Her eyes blazed with fierce determination. "Will you stand with us, Thorn? One last time?" He should leave. Every instinct honed from years of survival screamed at him to take the Wayfarer and escape while he could. Instead, he found himself nodding. "What do you need me to do?" The plan was audacious. While the main Lyrian fleet engaged the Imperium warships, a smaller strike team led by Nyx would infiltrate the enemy command vessel. Their target, the tactical computer containing the Imperium's complete defense protocols for the sector. The Wayfarer, with its unusual design and customized stealth capabilities, was the perfect insertion vehicle. As they prepared for departure, Nyx pulled Thorn aside. "If this succeeds, the resistance becomes a true rebellion. If it fails..." "It won't," he said with more confidence than he felt. Then, impulsively, he leaned forward and kissed her. Her lips were cool against his, but they warmed as she returned the gesture with surprising tenderness. When they parted, her violet eyes searched his. "What was that for?" "Good luck," he said simply. "For both of us." The battle was chaos, brilliant flashes of weapons fire against the blackness of space as the scattered Lyrian fleet executed Nyx's complex strategy with perfect precision. The Wayfarer slipped through the engagement zone, evading detection until they reached the massive Imperium command ship. As they prepared to board, Nyx turned to Thorn. "Whatever happens, you've already done more than anyone could ask." He adjusted his weapon. "Let's rewrite the ending of this story." Hours later, as the Imperium fleet retreated in disarray, Nyx stood on the bridge of the captured command vessel. Around her, Lyrian officers worked at stations once manned by their oppressors. Tactical displays showed the remaining Imperium ships jumping to lightspeed, fleeing the sector. Thorn watched her from the doorway, nursing a plasma burn on his arm. In the heat of battle, she had transformed completely, no longer the prisoner he had found in that forgotten cell, but a commander in her full power. She belonged here, among her people, leading them toward freedom. He slipped away quietly, heading back to the Wayfarer. It was time to go. Their paths had intersected for a purpose, but now that purpose was fulfilled. She had a rebellion to lead, he had salvage runs to complete. He was halfway through the pre-flight checklist when her voice came from behind him. You're leaving without saying goodbye. Thorn turned to find Nyx in the doorway, her expression unreadable. You don't need a scavenger hanging around anymore, he said, attempting a casual tone. You've got an armada to command. Perhaps. She stepped into the cockpit. Or perhaps what I need is someone who sees me as more than a symbol. Someone who knew me when I had nothing. What are you saying? I'm saying I need a good pilot. Her lips curved in a rare smile. And perhaps something more. Thorn's heart raced as she moved closer. I thought your place was with your people. My place is where I choose it to be. She touched his face gently. You showed me that freedom isn't just about escaping chains. It's about choosing your path. Outside the viewport, the newly formed Lyrian fleet assembled in formation around the captured command ship, the beginning of a force that would soon challenge the Imperium across the galaxy. But in this moment, within the small confines of the Wayfarer's cockpit, the only thing that mattered was the space between them, growing smaller as Nyx leaned forward. So, she whispered against his lips, where shall we go next? Thorn smiled as he pulled her closer. Anywhere. Everywhere. His forehead rested against hers. As long as we go together. As the ship's engines hummed to life, the stars stretched before them, infinite possibilities for a scavenger who had found purpose and a commander who had found freedom in the most unlikely of places.